Hey everyone, and welcome to the Uncorked Corner podcast, where we cover the full spread food and beverage industry topics. My name is Bianca, PR and marketing professional by day and food and wine connoisseur by night.
And my name is Nick, an accountant with a passion for barbecue, beer, and whiskey. Today we welcome Casleah Herwaldt to the show from By the Stem and Casleah Wines.
In this episode, Casleah tells us how she was inspired to become a certified sommelier and how this profession grew from a social media following to starting her own wine label.
If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to us. With that said, let's welcome Casleah to the show.
Welcome everyone to the show. Today we have Casleah joining us. She is a wine expert and she is also the founder of her new label. So we're going to start by having you introduce yourself to our audience and kind of give us a little rundown on how you got into the wine industry.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm super excited. So Casleah wine, it's crazy. It just dropped this week. So I was born and raised in Michigan, and my dad actually grew up on a vineyard. So as a kid, I was walking through the vines. So that's always been a part of my life. And then I got married and moved to Kansas City, and I got really involved with this local wine shop. And it was a really cute spot that it was always doing classes and tastings and events and things. And I was there for everything because I just really found an obsession with wine and I really wanted to learn more about it. And I felt like the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know. And it was just so much to learn. And so I was always there to the point where I was starting to show customers around the store and they're like, do you want to work here? And so my background is actually in healthcare. And so I was working full-time in healthcare while working nights and weekends at the wine store. And, reps would come in and I was like, whoa, that looks like a cool job. And I was just learning as much as I could. And then my husband got his new job with SpaceX, and that's what moved us out to California. And so I got connected with this MLM company called Wine Shop at Home, which was in-home wine tastings. And then did that for a little bit, learned a ton about, hosting events and things like that. And then I really started to pursue my education. I got my CMS1 and then my CMS2, Quartermaster Sommelier, Certified Sommelier. And then, and then also WSET programs, just wrapped up level 3, starting diploma in December. But then basically it wasn't until quarantine that I really jumped in full time because I was still doing my healthcare as well. And I was kind of selling wine on the side for somebody that a winery that I connected with on Instagram called Prohibito Wines. And so basically I was selling his wine kind of on the side for private events. And then when quarantine started, a bunch of my friends were texting me that they were running out of wine. And this was right when, we didn't want to go to the store even because we were so scared of what was going on. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I can send you guys some wine. And I was like, I'll even throw in a little Zoom tasting so we can, see each other. And so tons of people took me up on that right away. And so I started doing virtual wine tastings. I got really lucky and connected with the corporate scene. And so I've been doing that, and then sold Prohibito out of wine. So I had to find someone else to work with. And then I was up in Sonoma for my WSET 3 exam in July and was barrel tasting some wines. And I really, really loved this Pinot Noir and this Rosé. And my husband was like, we've always wanted to put Casleah on a wine label. And the rest is history, I guess.
That's so exciting. Yeah. And then congratulations again. And so for people taking it back a step, so you really immersed yourself in the world before you were even realizing that you wanted to really do this full time. How would you recommend that people who are just getting into wine kind of start to learn and build their own education?
Yeah, I think one thing that really helped me is getting connected with the local wine shop because, those people, they're passionate about it. They're excited to show you their new things that they are getting in. So finding like your cute little spot that's local and getting connected, obviously right now they're probably not doing in-store tastings, but you can at least pop in and say hi if they're still open. But then the other thing that really helped me is Wine Folly, their book, and just like going through the book and be like, oh, I haven't tried this grape, and then finding a place where I could try that grape, and then going to the next one, oh, I haven't tried this one. And so I was constantly always trying to try new things. And I think tasting is really kind of how you expand your knowledge of wine. But then if you're interested in like an education, I think like WSET 1 is a really good place to start. They teach you kind of the basics and wine and food pairing and stuff like that.
I know, Bianca, you have a little bit of experience going through the sommelier program, right?
I've taken a couple of courses with the Boston Wine School, which is a local program. And I have my first couple levels of certification there, but the CMS exams are definitely something I've wanted to do. I've taken the initial course, and then I'm also more recently looking into the WSET because I don't really need the service component. So for me, it was, I feel like it makes more sense. And I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people who aren't, if you're more interested in marketing and sales. But yeah, for me, it's just, I love wine. And we had a wine shop next to my office before I started working from home where I would go to little events after work, and I just love it. I think it's so much fun. And everybody has something like that around them, even if they don't realize it.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I was in Kansas when I found this wine shop, like a little suburb of Kansas City. So there's something everywhere.
I'm still searching for that for whiskey and beer. It doesn't really exist. It's a sad day. So can you tell us a little bit about what goes into, I know you said, you've always wanted to put Casleah on a label. So what's the first step you take when you want to do that? Because that seems like, when you step back and think, I want my own wine, that seems like a really daunting task. So where do you go first?
Oh my gosh, I don't know exactly how you would even start the process. I was really lucky because I already was friends with a winemaker who had wine that he wanted to sell. But I guess like there's tons of like custom crush pads in, whatever wine region you're wanting to make wine in. And so I would just Google, I guess. Like I know Napa Valley has like a little custom crush thing that they do, and you can buy, barrels. And it was a lot of work between getting the right blends and then like ordering my labels and just like tiny little things, like you have to submit the labels to the TTB and make sure it has all the right wording and getting the alcohol percent. And then I decided I wanted to add barcodes and like all these things that you don't realize that go into it, and but I guess, yeah, if you were interested in starting your own wine, I don't know, man, I guess just Google.
And you've also really made a name for yourself on social media. You've really been killing it. You have a lot of different wineries that you kind of talk about. You really bring people through the education. So how have you used that platform to really help to educate other people on wine? And I guess, what are some of your favorite parts about the wine community as a whole?
Oh my gosh, the wine community is so amazing. It's just really cool because it's kind of a small community. So we all support each other. And the beauty of wine is there's tons of wine, and there's never, I feel like, of course, there's like minor competition, but for the most part, like you want everyone to be successful, because if wine is successful, then you're successful, right? And so we all push each other and encourage each other. And but yeah, as far as like my Instagram and stuff, yeah, I always try to include education and try to make it have, not just a pretty picture. I never ever started the page to be like an influencer or, a model by any means. That's not like, I just enjoyed this wine and I wanted to post a picture of it. And then it just kind of turned into this whole page, but that was never the plan. It just kind of worked out that way. But I always try to give value for people that look to my page. And, I always try to give more value than I take whenever I'm doing anything like that.
You have a rosé and a Pinot Noir. So do you think that there is a white in your future?
There is a white in the future. Yeah. I will be up in Sonoma next week because I don't know if you saw, my rosé sold out in 2 days, which is like awesome, but also extremely stressful because I wasn't ready to like, I took so many cute pictures with that rosé and now I'm like, I can't even use those cute pictures, but no, so I'll be up there to bottle more. So hopefully I like this one and it's, how I want it. But yes, I will be sampling some white while I'm up there as well. So hopefully we can make a little 3-pack. That would be ideal.
So do you think going into the future, obviously, you have these really successful wines they're selling out. Do you think it's going to come down to a point where you're really partnering up with some certain vineyards and they're going to, maybe you'll scale it up and try to do these in bigger numbers so that you avoid that and people can always get your wines?
I really hope so. Yeah, that's definitely the plan, to get like more and more involved every single year. Hopefully, next year I can be more involved in the actual vineyard and the harvest and the punch downs and the barrel selection and all of that. I really want to be more involved, and I really love Sonoma because I'm like an acid person. I love my acidity on wine. So like Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, rosé, Champagne. I love those, are like my favorites, and so I feel like Sonoma's a really good fit for me, those cooler climate grapes, but I'm open to anything and anywhere. Yeah, I just want to see it keep growing.
And now that you're really kind of close to the heart of wine and I would say the US, but specifically in California, how would you say that experience has kind of helped you as somebody who is so interested in wine to really be immersed in that?
Oh my gosh, it's been like the biggest part of it for sure, being in California and especially LA, because like, when events are coming on a tour or something, they come to LA and they come to New York, so it's like everything happens in LA, and it's a hustle to be able to live here, but the opportunity is endless. So it's really been a blessing to be in LA. But then yeah, in California, and you think of like Napa Sonoma, but you don't even think about like Temecula is only an hour and a half away, Malibu's an hour away, Santa Barbara's 2 hours away. Then you have the whole Central Coast, and then there's a ton more up north. So yeah, I'm really, really lucky.
And outside of your label, what are some of the wineries that really kind of sparked your interest when you first started to explore the area?
When I first, explore like Napa Sonoma area, or, oh gosh. Well, when I first went to Napa for the first time, that was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. The first one I wanted to go to was Robert Mondavi, because I feel like he was kind of like the grandfather of Napa Valley. He really, like the Judgment of Paris, he really put like Napa on the map. And so I really wanted to visit there first. And we took like a 101 course. Like he did like a little, well, not Robert himself, but the people did like a little wine 101 course. And so I really, really helped me like understand exactly what's going on in the winery. So Robert Mondavi was a big one. I don't know, I hit up like all of I feel like I call them the touristy ones now, but I love them. But I feel like they're definitely, the Castle, Amorosa, the Sterling with the gondola. And we did like the foot stomping of the grapes, those types of things. That they make great wines, but there's so many to explore up there. It's crazy.
And outside of wine country out in California, are there other regions that you visited in the US that have some of your favorite wines, or are you really a California girl when it comes to the bottles that you're picking up?
Oh my gosh, I like everything. I don't discriminate. I went to Willamette for a little weekend trip and fell in love with their Pinot Noir up there. Domaine Serene was like outstanding, really stuck with me. I have not been to Washington wineries. I really want to go to Walla Walla. In the US, and Michigan. So I grew up in Michigan. And I visited a couple Michigan wineries recently, like I think it was last year. And I was really impressed. Like they're growing some fantastic cool climate, like Riesling and Gewürztraminer and some really cool stuff up there. So I think that's kind of underrated. And but domestically, I haven't really done too much outside of California besides those ones. Yeah.
Yep, we had a one guest on previously, Cave Spring, that's in Ontario, and they're the same thing with the Riesling in that area. So I imagine that's very similar to what you had there in Michigan,
Yeah.
for wine availability.
We've also
similar to
had
climate.
was it Three Rivers that was in Washington?
Yep, so that's Northwest. So you've been up there,
We've
yeah.
had some Washington in
Yep.
here too.
Very
we've been
cool.
around the country, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
definitely a lot
awesome.
of California as well.
Yeah. Very
It's so
cool.
it's great because we live in it, there's wines that are famous from Italy and France, and I feel like they're the places you really think of, and Argentina maybe, and there's so many unexplored places with great wines, and I think in the US there are places you wouldn't even think of that have wines that are coming out that are, really holding their own against some of these big names out there, and we've had so
Totally.
much fun trying them. But yeah, I think you don't even think about even some of the ones up here in New England. I mean, most of them are like fruit ones, but it's so much fun to try things and just see what the differences are. I mean, everywhere is so unique.
Totally. One that's been on my radar lately is Virginia, which is so random. And I've never even tried Virginia wine, but I've seen some people post about it and they say it's really good. So I'm like, okay, all right, Virginia, I got to get out there and try some.
So here's a
Yeah.
question. One thing that I've noticed with wine, so when you look at whiskey, when you look at beer, my kind of go-tos, it really comes down to how it's made and the ingredients that you're selecting. And there's usually pretty cut and dry, like when it comes to hops, for example, like there's certain types of hops that impart certain flavors. And I'm sure, like with any, harvestable, good, it's going to have, seasonality to it. But with wines, everyone really focuses, it seems, on region.
Mhm.
How much of the actual wine making, because you could have someone in a region that might not be doing the same thing. How much do you focus on the actual person making the wine compared to the region when you're choosing to buy?
Oh, I always shop region probably because I think a good producer is going to showcase the region. So it's in wine, we use the term terroir. So it means like the environment that the grapes are grown in. And it can be, the elevation, the sun exposure, the soil, the humidity, the ocean, influence. There's so much that can affect the vines. Crops that are planted nearby, like in Australia we always get like a little bit of eucalyptus note on their wines, and it's really cool because the terroir can really really change the grapes. And I think the winemaker's job is not to hide that or manipulate that, but to maybe just accentuate it. So some grapes do really well with oak barrels, and or maybe like some manipulation that's like, I mean, we could get really nerdy, malolactic fermentation to add kind of like the creaminess or the butteriness to the wine, things like that. But I think a good skilled winemaker, it's more of just like an accent on what the grape already is bringing from the environment that it grows in. And
And for
it's so
some,
fascinating because it changes. Like, I always teach my virtual tasting clients about like Sauvignon Blanc. Like you think about a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc versus like a Sancerre from France versus like a Sauvignon Blanc from California. It's all the same grape, but it changes so much depending on where it comes from.
and for someone who's not used to tasting wines, when you're starting out and you're really, you don't really know what you're doing, how do you suggest going about the tasting process and like deciphering what those flavors are, especially if your palate's not necessarily used to cutting down those flavors and really identifying them?
Yeah, so there's two things that were really helpful for me. One is the Wine Folly book. I just love that book. Like when I first started, like say I was drinking like an Aglianico. It was a brand new Aglianico. I've never had an Aglianico before, and I'm going to discover this new grape. I would open the page in the Wine Folly book and I would look like, okay, what notes am I supposed to be getting on this wine? What is the acid level? What is the tannin level? What is the body and the alcohol? And I would like really study that page and like kind of correlate it with that wine. And so then like the next time I have an Aglianico, I can like remember, oh, I got that kind of notes on there. So now I can like be ready to pick up those notes. But another way to really do it is I had a master sommelier, Doug Frost in Kansas City, tell me, you're not trying hard enough unless you've been kicked out of a grocery store, fondling the fruits and the vegetables and the herbs and really trying to memorize what they actually smell and taste like. You can say you're picking up plum on the wine, but if you don't really know what a plum tastes like or smells like, then are you really getting plum? So like I'll literally, when I'm at the store, I'm like, oh my gosh, dragon fruit. Like I haven't had a dragon fruit in a minute. I'm going to pick that up so I can remember what it tastes and smells like, and it's all that you're familiar with and what your nose and in your memory of what you've had. And that's kind of how you learn to pick it up on the wine.
And with the holidays coming up, of course, we'll all be drinking wines, but there's also a big opportunity to gift wines. And your wine is one of those. But what are some other gifts for people on their list that are not necessarily a bottle of wine, but like what are some wine essentials that you recommend that people have on their bar cart that maybe you could put together a little gift for the holidays?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, if you want to splurge, I love my Coravin. It's definitely great for me for, not having to open a whole bottle of wine and just have a little bit. Another great product is this product called Repour, and it's like a little wine saver topper. You just like peel off the foil and you put it in, and then it releases like the argon gas in the bottle. And so if you don't finish your bottle, like say you open and you have half left, you put that in, and it really saves the wine for like weeks up to months. So that's a really cool product. You can find it on like Amazon. Let's see, wine glasses. I am like, my Instagram and blog is by the stem. Like I'm kind of a wine glass snob. Like I really need a good wine glass. I was like, I really need to invent a product to bring wine glasses with you to places, because I always want to bring my own, because if I get there and they only have stemless, I'm like always so upset. But anyways, so wine glasses is huge. And you don't have to spend a ton of money. Like I love the Schatz Wiesels from Crate and Barrel. I think they're like $15. Riedel Performance champagne glasses are my favorite. Wine glasses are huge. Everyone can always use more corkscrews. I like the classic, like Butler Key double hinge regular one with like a little knife on it, those are like my essentials. I'm not really like a gadgety person. I like all of the, special openers and special aerators and all that. I'm not into that stuff. But books is another good one. Wine Folly book, the Wine Bible, the Wine Atlas. Those are all really, really good gifts for people too.
And when you're not drinking wine, what is your spirit of choice?
Oh gosh, I love gin. Oh, and whiskey. I like gin for cocktails. I like whiskey, well, bourbon specifically, because my dad's really into bourbon, and he'll like, I kind of got spoiled in that sense. Like we were home over the 4th and he opened Pappy Van Winkle. And so I've experienced some good bourbons in my day. So, I really like bourbon, and I just drink it. Well, I usually have it over ice, but.
So I'm the whiskey guy here. So not everyone's gonna get access to Pappy all the time. So what's your go-to whiskey to have on the shelf?
That's a good point. Well, I like Blanton's a lot too, but that's not a super accessible one either. Angel's Envy, I think that one's pretty accessible, right? That's another
more so, yeah.
Yeah.
And other than also wines and gadgets, so any other things that you would suggest to kind of pair with? Maybe let's say we want to put together a wine gift box for someone. Like you're gonna go so gadget, like give them a nice corkscrew. You're gonna give them a glass. You're gonna give them a bottle of wine. And what else for? If you had to pick one food item to put in there, what would it be?
Well, if you're gonna get it like in a time where it's not gonna expire, cheese. Like I feel like cheese is like wine and cheese always go well. Who doesn't like cheese? And I really like the cheese selection at Trader Joe's. Like I always recommend people to go there. They have amazing cheeses. Man, that's a tough question because it depends on the wine. Like you got to pair it and.
So jumping off that, what is your preferred food and wine pairing if you could have like one really good hearty meal?
Hearty steak and Cabernet. I feel like you can't like go wrong with that. Like I love, my medium rare steak, like filet with like a good silky Cabernet from Napa. That's a really like good hearty one. But I have so many favorite pairings. Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones.
And what about with cheeses? So let's say you have to gift a cheese. You don't want to get one that's going to go bad too soon. So let's say you're going to go with one that's going to be a little bit more shelf stable. Give it like a week or so. That and wine, what are you going to go for? What are you gifting to someone?
Oh gosh. Okay, well, a wine and cheese pairing that's changed my life is Sauterne and blue cheese. I typically don't love blue cheese like on its own, but if you have it with Sauterne, which is a dessert wine from France, from Bordeaux, it's life changing because it's like the salty sweet combo. Goat cheese with Sauvignon Blanc is amazing. I'm sorry, my dog, her little ball went under the dresser and she's very upset right now. Hold on, honey. And then also like in your hard cheeses, like a Gouda or a cheddar, something like that, I like to put something with a bit of like tannin structure. So like a Malbec or a Syrah or a Cab, like something that can really break up the fattiness on the cheese. Yeah.
Those all sound great.
I know.
now I want cheese. And we're past dinner time, so I'm past due for my meal.
Oh man, I'm coming up on dinner time.
So for everybody listening, we will link your website in the description. But where can everyone find you and follow along with any new ones that you have coming out? Because I'm sure we have some fun stuff in store, and just follow along with you in general.
Yeah, By the Stem is my Instagram and blog, like you hold your wine glass by the stem. But yeah, if you just Google my first name, Casleah, I will come up.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, and we are so excited to see what else you have to announce, because it seems like you have so much happening. And I know that we love following along with all of your stuff. So thank you so much for coming on, and cheers.
Oh, cheers. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. Goodbye.
Bye.
Be sure to follow us on social at Uncorked Corner and on the blog at uncorkedcorner.com for a taste of more food and beverage content.
And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe, rate, and review on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Thanks for listening.